So one of the most exciting days of the year and one of the most important days of the year is coming up soon. April 18th in Washington, D.C. What is it?
We're so excited that it is our annual Global Inclusive Growth Summit that's coming up on the sidelines of the World Bank and IMF spring meetings in Washington, D.C.
One way I think about the Global Inclusive Growth Summit is that a lot of the official convenings are more top-down, right? They're led by elected officials. There's a lot of policy conversation. This is kind of bottom-up,
Right.
right? Here you're looking to figure out what are the solutions from a whole range of actors.
Yeah.
Not necessarily people who hold some big official job, but who just have a really important idea and a commitment to their community.
You know, we have a group of what we call change makers, and the change makers are practitioners who are going to be coming in from around the world with their bottom-up solutions. And so you're going to hear change makers coming in from everywhere from India to Indiana. And what I think you're going to hear is that there are more similarities in the issues, but also more engagement around the opportunities than we realize. We are more alike than we are different. And I think that the change makers and the leadership that they provide is really going to be a powerful force at the summit this year.
This is being held right in Washington, D.C. I mean, really very close to where thousands of delegates from all over the world come for the World Bank and the IMF spring meetings every year. Talk to us about the thinking behind that. Why do this alongside those meetings?
You know, with the World Bank and the IMF meetings, people are coming from all over the world to participate in the conversations. Central bank governors, multilateral organizations, presidents, prime ministers. And so this is a moment when the world comes to Washington to talk about development. The other piece that I think is interesting about this year in particular is that we have a new head of the World Bank.
And of course, you're talking about Ajay Banga, president of the World Bank, who was the CEO at this company, MasterCard, and helped with you to create the Center for Inclusive Growth.
Exactly. I mean, I think he's bringing a perspective to the World Bank that really is inclusive of the private sector in a way that also recognizes that these issues of inclusion, of climate, of security, of privacy, of technology, of data, they're all intertwined. And you really can't talk about one without talking about the other.
So this has become a key moment in the global calendar. It's now the 5th year that the Global Inclusive Growth Summit, you started this here at the MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth in 2019. Like, take us back to 2019 when you decided that this had to happen. Why did you think, what was the gap that you thought this convening was trying to fill?
There's a private sector approach to addressing global challenges and global issues that has been missing from the conversation. None of us can solve these problems by ourselves in the individual places in which that we're operating in. So from the private sector perspective, what we know is that it's really important to bring the best of the private sector together with the best of the public sector, together with the best of the social sector, and now increasingly together with the best of the media sector to ensure that we are doing everything we can to address the challenges that so many of us are facing.
And when you say the best of, I mean, let's remind people that last year's Global Inclusive Growth Summit featured Trevor Noah, Melinda French Gates, social entrepreneurs and innovators from all over the world. It was an incredible lineup. This year, it's going to be an amazing lineup too. And I know there's one speaker in particular you wanted to mention. I'd love to just hear a little bit more about him and why you're so excited for his presence.
Well, we're just thrilled that Elton John has agreed to participate in the Global Inclusive Growth Summit. And he's been on the forefront of health access issues, of HIV and AIDS. And his work around inclusion is inspiring millions, if not billions, to get involved in the conversation. And so when you have somebody like Elton John coming together with somebody like Cardinal Turkson, you have the faith-based community meeting with the artistic community, the creative community meeting with the business community, meeting with the government community, meeting with the social sector community, meeting with practitioners who are actually doing this work on the ground. The magic that can happen there, I think, is the thing that I'm really actually most looking forward to.
You know, this is an important moment for MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth. It touches a lot on private sector and how the private sector has a key role to play. Some of the leaders at MasterCard have worked a lot on these issues.
Yeah.
You know, who can we expect to hear from MasterCard at this event?
So this is our 10th year, And so it's the 10th anniversary of the MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth. And so we're going to mark it with including major players from not only MasterCard, like we have our board chair, Merritt Janow, who will be participating in a lot of the activities. And of course, last year we had our CEO, Michael Miebach, who was there.
And that conversation that Michael Miebach had with Mokhtar Diop, who is the head of the IFC, kind of perfectly frames up what this conference is about.
What I recall from that session was the conversation where Michael said, if it's not inclusive, it doesn't scale. And if it doesn't scale, it doesn't matter. Now, that coming out of a private sector CEO's perspective, really allows, I think, private sector actors to do what they do best and, really to compete, to create incentives for a race to the top. And that's what we're doing.
And I think this year in particular, AI is so much in the news, in the headlines, in the zeitgeist. Everybody's talking AI. It's going to be on stage, I'm sure, at the Global Inclusive Growth Summit. How are you thinking about it, and what is going to be different about the way you approach this issue?
You're absolutely right. We have, global experts who are going to be joining to talk about AI from the perspectives of, standards, solutions, and scale. The interesting thing I think about AI and frankly new technologies is these things are happening all at the same time. So as governments are providing regulation and some guardrails, you're also seeing solutions happen in real time. ChatGPT just, it came out and it's transformed how we're doing this. And then it's operating at scale. And so we're all feeling the effects of AI, both positive and negative, but we have to deal with all of the complexity of the issues at the same time. Sure. And so I think that's a conversation we're going to bring out at the summit, is how we have to, move fast and slow, think big and small, be local and global when it comes to new technologies and new data and new applications of the data like AI.
So it seems like really rich terrain for this conference to focus on. I think in particular, one area I'm interested in is small businesses.
I think this is the age of the entrepreneur. And I think if we get this right, we can unlock the potential that entrepreneurs and small businesses have the potential to drive for employment, for jobs, for growth around the world. Things like AI and technology have the power to accelerate their growth. They also have the power to shut them down. Like one thing we also know is that there's huge cybersecurity issues facing small businesses. In fact, a data breach or some cybersecurity issue usually shuts down a small business within 6 months of activation. And so part of what we're doing with one of our global initiatives called Strive is ensuring that we work with small businesses to realize the power of going digital, getting capital, and growing their networks and know-how in order to succeed in this new digital economy.
I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are focused on climate change. Mm-hmm. This is certainly one of the biggest, most important mega themes in the world right now. How will climate show up at this convening?
It's going to show up in a number of ways, but I think the intersection between climate and inclusion, climate and economic growth, is the unique perspective that we're going to offer here at this convening. And so this intersection between inclusive growth, poverty alleviation, jobs, in the context of climate change is something that we really have to knit together. And I think you're going to hear a lot about that at the summit.
And I think what's so powerful about this event is you walk away so inspired by the leaders that are there, because these are people committed to doing something new, doing something different. As you think about just the weeks leading up, this is April 18th in Washington, D.C. People following this might be interested to attend it in person or follow along online. What do you want to ask people to do?
This only works if we have people that are engaged and interested and involved. And what I've seen and what I think we all learned, it takes engagement from everyone if we're actually going to scale those solutions, and so that we can ensure that the solutions actually have a practical application in real people's lives. So my ask would be to join us. My ask would be to provide solutions. My ask would be to get social, get active, and bring your best to the conversation, because it's the place where we're going to put it to work.